WrestleBuddy Podcast. All about wrestling. Subscribe and follow for more content.
Welcome, Wrestle Buddies, to our weekly roundup of all the wrestling news that's been around this weekend. We'll digest some of the top headlines. I'm joined today by the invisible hand. Well, he's not invisible today, are you, Alex? Well, good to have you on board. The gaffer of Wrestle Buddy. How are you doing, Alex?
All good here. Hope you both are well. And I'm Alexander from WrestleBuddy. And you can follow me on Wrestle_Buddy.
Brilliant. And we've got WrestleBuddy's little beep. I'm not going to say it this early in the video. So first of all, on the news this week, we had Shawn Michaels, reporter Shawn Michaels and the support for Bronson Reed and Adam Cole. So when WWE did massive budget cuts this year, they released some of the top names in the company. The likes of Bray Wyatt, Malachi Black, Braun Strowman, to name but a few. And there was a lot of surprising names on the list of NXT that were roughly left as well. I mean, Adam Cole obviously was a different kettle of fish, but Bronson Reed was one of the ones that was let go. Now, while he was speaking on Buster Radio this week, Bronson Reed stated, I got to speak with Shawn right after my release. He actually texted me very shocked and said, you have to show them that it was a mistake. Keep working. It's not something we saw coming. I was speaking with him at the previous tapings about future storylines. You know, the thing that always kind of gets me is, if you look at Shawn Michaels round, you know, the early 90s, the Click time, and, you know...
he was a completely different guy.
Yeah. He would never have
different guy. Yes.
You would never have put him in that role as a coach with NXT, would you?
Yes.
And
now he's completely opposite.
Yeah. And then also we had Adam Cole was on the oral sessions with Renee Paquette.
Yeah.
And he had something to say about Shawn as well. So he said, Shawn and I developed a relationship, like I said, that I will think will last for the rest of our lives. At least I hope so. And I know Shawn feels the same way too, but Shawn has always been such a big supporter of me and what's best for me. So of course he would want me to work something out where I could stay and things like that. But at the time, Shawn wanted me to be happy. He wanted me to do what's best for me, so he's had my back. He knows how much I respect him, how much I look up to him and idolise him. So for him to be very open about, listen, of course, I want you to stay here, but I want you to be happy. He was putting business aside, all that stuff aside. He wanted me to be happy as possible. So that was really cool for me. It was what I needed to hear, honestly. And like I said, it was a big decision. So for him to have my back as well was really cool. Now, with the Adam Cole and Shawn Michaels relationship, it's not as surprising to me because you can already see Adam Cole's, he's a clone of Shawn, really, isn't he, in his earlier days? What's your thoughts on that, Alex?
He was very close to both Hunter and Michaels during his NXT run.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose to go to AEW because I think he wanted to align himself with his old friends like the Elite and Kenny Omega. That's the reason he just go there. And the main reason he decided to jump ship is because the main roster call up. Yeah. They were trying to change his name and they were telling him to manage Keith Lee. Mm-hmm. Adam Cole is the longest NXT champion, I think so, right? He's the longest reigning NXT champ.
That's correct.
They are making him a manager like Leo Rush. Leo Rush and Bobby Lashley kind of thing they wanted to do. So,
I do think, though, to be fair, in this interview, he did dispute that. He did dispute they were going to make him a manager, but he did say in the Renee Paquette interview that they were looking to change his name and they were looking for a new look for him and stuff like that. So, you know, it's very strange that. What do you think on that thing?
Because they did this thing because they don't want to mix it up with, I think, Michael Cole.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, and Adam Cole is definitely Michael Cole's son. But coming back to the topic at hand, I feel like you have Adam Cole, who is like... Shawn Michaels knew that there wasn't not much for him to accomplish on the main roster because guys like him, there's a higher chance of him succeeding in AEW than on the WWE main roster. Because even though the report of him being a manager was wrong, there were other creative issues during that, which Adam Cole, I think, mentioned during the same interview, that he didn't feel he was going to be... I don't want to twist his word, but there was this sense that he wasn't going to be creatively satisfied within the WWE main roster. and he did it all in NXT. And he was one of the best booked wrestlers in WWE in the past 4 or 5 years. And for him to go to AEW, although it is a blow to WWE, a big blow to WWE, I don't feel like there was anything else left for him there. So with Shawn Michaels supporting his decision, I think they all knew the change was coming, NXT being rebranded. And yeah, Shawn Michaels knew that Adam Cole would succeed in AEW, and there was nothing WWE was going to lose from not having Adam Cole because they weren't going to book him as the star that he is in the first place.
Brilliant. Okay. So, yeah, I think also one thing that really gets me is the fact of, like, you know, they keep going on about this big guys and all the rest of it, but AJ Styles isn't a big guy.
Yeah, but
Randy Orton isn't a big guy, realistically. So,
yeah.
So,
but Vince was not like very supportive to Adam Cole, and the creative plans was not that much good. Like he was not getting a huge push like some of the NXT guys when they got into the main roster. They got a really huge push, and all the reports and everything was coming up that he's not getting the chance that he needs to get in the main roster.
Yeah, and you see how they treat. Sorry to cut you off, Andy, and you were going to go ahead.
No,
but
go.
You can see that with the way, like months before, just a few months before his call up, but actually not even a month before his call up, before his NXT contract expired, they called up Karrion Kross, one of the most protected guys on the roster. He ran through everyone. He beat Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Kyle O'Reilly. He literally destroyed the NXT roster, gets called up, loses to Jeff Hardy in 2 minutes. So that was kind of a message being sent as to how they treated NXT. And you see this trend of the NXT call-ups not getting treated well. I think Adam Cole knew what was there for him on the main roster.
Yeah, and I think Adam Cole's a really good wrestler, and he's going to be getting his chance to wrestle in AEW. But just on that point, lads, I've got a bit of a stat here for you, and I want you to both have a guess at these. So this is minutes of wrestling per hour this week on Raw, NXT, NXT UK, Smackdown, Dynamite, and Rampage. So we're going to start off with Raw. What do you think was the total minutes wrestled in per hour on Raw this week? Alex, we'll start with you on this one.
In Raw? Around 20 minutes?
Ooh, not bad guess. Zane?
Yeah, 23 or 24 minutes.
Okay, so the actual minutes wrestling on Raw per hour this week was 19 minutes. Okay, wow. So now we'll go to NXT.
26?
So, same 26 for Alex. How many for you, Zane?
I think they had quite a few matches. I'm going to say 30.
Okay, so 17 minutes of actual wrestling action on NXT this week. NXT UK. Alex, what are you going for with this?
32.
Zane?
30.
29 minutes. So NXT was a bit, NXT UK was a bit up on the rest of them. But obviously for the main shows, it's quite low. So SmackDown, for the 2 hour SmackDown, how many wrestling minutes?
20 something.
Okay, what do you think, Zane?
15.
Bang on the money, 15 minutes
because
of wrestling per hour. Post. Yeah. Okay, so there was 15 minutes per hour. Now we're going to flip over to AEW just to make my point. So Dynamite, how many minutes per hour on Dynamite?
36.
Zane?
37.
37 on the money. He's already seen this deal, doesn't he?
That's why he's getting...
Okay, and then we've got, and then the last but not least, we've got Rampage, which I'm not even going to dash this because the little shit of WrestleBuddy's ruined it already.
I don't know that one. I don't know the actual.
Okay, so Rampage. In the 2 hour Rampage, there was 36 minutes of wrestling action. So obviously, it's nearly 50%, well, no, 100% more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of what WWE do, and you're getting more. So, you know, for someone like Adam Cole, my whole point, what I'm trying to make is somebody like Adam Cole, who's a real good in-ring performer, is going to get a lot more in-ring time in AEW to tell his stories and have his matches and do his bits and bobs based on these stats. But in WWE, he's not going to get the chance. And that's no slight on WWE. Obviously, they're telling stories. And I enjoyed Royal and SmackDown this week.
That shows
You
the
know.
clear difference between sports entertainment and a wrestling show.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, this really annoys me, this, because I like the way they're going down the wrestling thing, but at the end of the day, they still are sports entertainment, AEW, whether they like it or not. If they're not sports entertainment, do you know Mr. Cutler who runs around with the spray in the Young Bucks with the stupid spray and that? Are they going to go and
Yeah.
sack him tomorrow? Do you know what I mean? Are they going to go and sack some of the, some of the other bits and bobs that they do on the show? Is Don Callis going to get sacked tomorrow because he's not in a wrestling ring ever, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
That's the entertainment aspect of the industry, is it not?
Yes.
You
I
know.
feel like sorry, I'm really off my game today. I'm afraid to cut you.
No,
I'm afraid to cut you off.
go on, Dane.
Go on.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. I was saying that the fact that this idea of what sports entertainment and what professional wrestling means in itself is quite a bit skewed from its actual reality, and there is no set meaning to what you consider professional wrestling. Now, some might disagree with me. Some might say, well, professional wrestling is what Bobby Eaton does or what FTR or Bret Hart does. And then you have guys like Orange Cassidy, Danhausen, who are totally breaking the
Sorry,
norm.
Zane, I think we lost you there.
So, professional.
I think we
Yeah.
got you back
I
now.
was saying that professional wrestling could be this wide array of things, while sports entertainment in itself might not be centered around wrestling itself. But then again, what's the difference if professional wrestling is so flexible?
Oh yeah, that's 100%. And my attitude to it is, well, you know, I'm all for AEW going on the lines of putting these great matches on and these long technical matches, which is great. But does that mean I'm going to stop switching on to the WWE? No, it doesn't at all, because I like the flamboyancy and I like the production and everything else that WWE bring, and the gimmick matches and everything else that they do. I'm a big fan. So, you know, for me is, if anything, I encourage the AEW to go down that route because it gives us two totally different products to enjoy.
Yes.
You know, instead of trying to do the same thing. But anyway, we'll move on. Talking about AEW, there was again, Adam Cole shocked the world when he debuted it all out. Now there was rumours and reports circling that he might sign with WWE, but obviously that wasn't the case. Now, Cole's real life girlfriend, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Sorry, I
And
have
his
to do it.
kayfabe girlfriend as well.
Yeah, and his real life girlfriend, which I did say that, you little shit, so listen next time. He turned around and stated that WWE wanted to sign Britt, and they did ask him on a couple of occasions to let him know when her contract was due up, and to let them know let her know, that they were interested, which is quite interesting. Do you think that would have been a good move for her, Alex, or do you think she should, I don't really personally.
No, I don't think so that she should sign with WWE, because when she was with WWE, she got squashed by Nia Jax. So
I think everyone's been squashed by Nia Jax, though, haven't they? Whether they wanted to be or not.
Yes, and it is a really good choice that she's in AEW, because she's the one who is carrying the whole company by herself as of now, because AEW women's division is really weak. It is really weak.
Yeah.
Yes, there are AEW fans, they will come and shit on the comment that no, AEW is like this and like that. But no, the women's division is weak since the start.
No, I think she's brilliant. I think she really is.
Yes.
You're 100% right. She is leading the way in the women's division. And I think the AEW women's division didn't start until she took that belt, and she's took it and she's ran with it since then. What's your thoughts on that, team?
Yeah, her career trajectory has been quite wild and insane to look at. And if you had seen her with WWE, because when she first started with AEW, or when she first appeared in the Fatal 4-Way match at All In, she looked like a babyface, right? Her whole entire look was a babyface. She was a dentist who worked hard. And I'm not saying that WWE would have not turned her heel, but there would have been a chance that they would have pushed her as a babyface. Now, she doesn't work well as a babyface at all. And her heel persona has truly brought out her real side. Even though she gets cheers from the fans, she's being a shithead in character at the end of the day. And she is the pioneer of women's wrestling in AEW, and she just main evented their biggest show to date, like based on crowd capacity. So I don't see why she would be interested in going to WWE at any point in the near future.
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't see it doing that. Well, we move on from that into another bit of AEW news. So Kenny Omega wants to face Roman Reigns, apparently, okay? So,
Everyone does.
obviously, he's just come off the back of his great match with Bryan Danielson, and he was talking to Tokyo Sport to promote AEW Grand Slam, and he said this is what he had to say. So there's been quite a few already, so I'm not lacking in opponents. I don't exactly have anyone I have in mind right now, but if I must say, I'd love to go against Roman Reigns. It would be a great opportunity to show who's the real champion. Obviously, kayfabe talk, isn't it? Because it's going to be predetermined if they ever fought. But would you like to see that match? I'm not too sure I'd want to see that match. I think Roman's totally a different type of character, and
Yes.
I don't think a Roman Reigns needs a Kenny Omega. And to that other extent, I don't really see a Kenny Omega needs a Roman Reigns. What's your thoughts on that, Alex?
I don't think so that this is a kind of dream match like people are very excited about. Yes, it is a AEW versus WWE thing, but I don't think so that it will create that much amount of buzz also, because Kenny Omega is a completely different character, completely different. And his style of wrestling is also completely opposite than Roman. Roman is a character which is based on the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
He is
100%.
based on the wrestling matches, the 5-star
Yeah.
matches or 6-star, whatever it is.
Yeah,
So I don't
and
think
also,
so that they did a good match.
No, and I think Kenny's been to Japan, he's been all over.
Yeah.
Roman's basically man-made by WWE, so he
WWE.
hasn't got that experience of going around the different styles or the different things. So I don't think technically it would be a really, really good match, because I
No.
think the two of them, Kenny's never been to WWE either, let's not forget. So the clashing styles, I don't think it mesh very well at all. Bryan Danielson, for instance, is different because, yes, he's been WWE, but he's also fought in Ring of Honor, Japan, everywhere else as well beforehand. So he's got them styles in his back pocket, where Roman's never really done that, has he, Zane?
Yeah, being the little shit I am, I'm going to disagree with you guys. I actually, two of my dream matches, one in WWE versus AEW, one is Kenny Omega versus Brock Lesnar. You might disagree with that as well. And the other one is actually Kenny Omega versus Roman Reigns, because I feel like Kenny Omega has. Tell me you don't want to see a spear counted into a V-trigger. All right, now that's just one spot I'm talking about. But you have Omega, who has now obviously within his matches in and of itself, there might not be enough storytelling. But you check out his feud with Okada, Okada's IWGP heavyweight title reign, which was I think the longest one, and his fourth and final match, there were so many callbacks and there were so many instances in where you were like, okay, so I understand why they're doing this. And it was like, I don't want to be a really edgy angsty teenager saying, oh, Melzer, they rated that 7 stars, that's how I'm going to go off on about it. But it was really a good match, and Omega has been wrestling with different styles all over everywhere. And even in AEW, I feel like Christian versus Omega was an interesting match, right? It was actually a pretty decent match in and of itself. And I feel like Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns can pull off an amazing match. Because just for the sake of seeing two very different styles blend together, this guy from FCW into WWE, and then this prototype of what a WWE superstar should look like, compared to the completely opposite, someone breaking the norm and still becoming a bigger star in and of itself, separate from WWE.
But could they, you're saying intertwining it, obviously that's going to come down to the fact of if they can work together and put a match together. And obviously the way Kenny Omega puts a match together and comes up with a finish and etc. is going to be 100% different than what Roman does. Do you think they would kind of not clash on that side of things?
I mean, you can blend both the styles, like you can have the best of both worlds.
But would you need somebody to come in and make that happen? Because the two of them together, obviously we're seeing AEW, Bryan Danielson and Kenny's probably got together and put this match together on their own, where I feel like because you've got such contrasting styles, you probably need a fair person in the middle to put the match together. Do you not think?
Yeah, and that person is Eddie Kingston.
I want to add one
okay.
point in this thing that, like Zen said, Brock Lesnar and Kenny Omega, definitely it will be a kind of 5-star match because Brock Lesnar always have a great matches with smaller guys. Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan. We have a lot of examples for that. But for Kenny Omega, the perfect opponent as of now in WWE is Seth Rollins.
Yeah. Okay, agree.
That is the perfect opponent
I'd say maybe Finn Balor, maybe.
Styles.
Yeah. Styles is also there. Even Edge is also a good.
Yeah,
Edge is also
had
a good
history,
opponent.
right? Omega, like they haven't closed off that door they opened when Omega kicked him out of the Bullet Club in 2016.
Yeah.
That's something they could play off of.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, should we move on now? So we've got more AEW news, and it was Chris Jericho was on an interview with Stephanie Chase, and he was saying about the fact that TNT threatened to pull AEW back in the early days. This is what he had to say. So, sorry, it was actually due to Jericho smoking a cigar on TV. So it was one of them. Actually, was when I beat up Dustin Rhodes when I was feuding with Cody way back in the beginning, and we beat him up. Oh, sorry, just to cut off there. No surprise, somebody way in the beginning feuding with Cody when they first come in. When I lit up a cigar and they did not like it. No smoking allowed on this show. They were super angry about it. No smoking allowed, and I was like, really? Out of all the things, that's what didn't matter. What's your thoughts on that, Alex? Obviously, you know I know we've had the pizza cutter since then, but
I honestly feel that this is like they are allowing blood, they are allowing violence, they are allowing like slangs, and everything is allowed in TNT. Even the death matches, we have witnessed a death match between Nick Gage and Jericho, but they are not allowing just smoking a cigar. I really don't understand why they threatened to pull AEW just because of smoking scene.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I was saying I feel like there's a certain level of trust developed over time because back then AEW wasn't bringing in million viewers per week, right? And now you have them doing like pulling great numbers for a slot on TNT that is often matched by. It was first matched by NXT and is now matched by various reality TV shows, especially Guy Fieri's. I don't know what's it called, but. You have them bringing in amazing numbers, and hence now they're allowed to say shit all the time, which is quite overwhelming at this point.
I think you're right. I think, to be honest with you, I was actually going to say we should probably do an article on WrestleBuddy and get. I know Steve watches all the AEW stuff really tentatively, so we should get him to do a shit watch, and we'll do a shit count, see how many we get in one episode.
Well,
be quite interesting to see. Yeah, we've got you there anyway. But shut up, adult, are talking. So we'll move on to the last bit of news that we had. The last bit on this review anyway. Obviously, there's more news, but we've got to stop it somewhere. Fox is unhappy with WWE. So WWE signed $1 billion deal with the Fox network when they decided to move SmackDown to Fox. After a few months of the pandemic, and it was the change of the pro wrestling world. Obviously, everything in the world changed at that point, and there was viewership plummeted to a new low. You can't really blame them when they're during the pandemic and whatnot, but it was interesting the fact that there was more people at home who had more time to watch TV and they weren't watching wrestling. Went live callbacks, the ratings have been on the rise, but not the rise that Fox wants. According to Fightful Select, Fightful reached out to several close sources to WWE Fox relationship and have been told in July that the relationship between the two sides was strained. Now, I would be if I was Fox. You've got AEW on TNT, who, let's face it, are probably getting a lot less in their deal, a lot less money, and a lot less, conditions probably within their deal, and they're pulling in a lot of viewership. They're getting close to SmackDown's viewership at the moment. If I was Fox and I was looking for what I was paying and they were pulling in that, I wouldn't be happy at all. What's your thoughts? Let's go to Zane first this time.
Thank you, Andy. I feel like Fox. Here's I'm going to clarify a bit on this. I think SRS tweeted out last night as well that anyone saying that using the headline that Fox was, what was the term? Disappointed with WWE or in dispute with WWE. He said that it was a misrepresentation of what was actually reported within the Select news, within the Fightful Select article. And I don't feel like there's this level of that they're angry or they're not happy with SmackDown, with WWE. It's just that they aren't maybe exceeding expectations, right? Because they're meeting expectations, but they're doing the bare minimum. Now, you have them putting shows like they did the show in the Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks ago, and they have all the top talent. They have Edge, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and they have a stacked card on SmackDown, and they pull out everything within that 2-hour show. So I don't see reason for Fox to be disappointed. And with COVID, and now they're slightly recovering because they're nearing around 2 million. But I think the idea why they would be disappointed comes in is what you said, Andy. TNT is paying AEW a lot less, and Fox would be emptying their pockets out for WWE. So when you look at that comparison, and essentially they're putting out the same category of entertainment, whether you call it sports entertainment, whether you call it professional wrestling, it's wrestling. And you see that there's a strong market for wrestling, and they're paying a shit ton of money to SmackDown to air on Fridays from 8 to 10 on Fox Sports. And they aren't pulling as much numbers as AEW has done given the amount of money that they're being paid. So I feel like if I was Fox, I'd be kind of not happy, but not totally disappointed in SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think you've got to look at, as well as WWE, and you've got to look at the product and see what they're bringing in. In my head, you've got to look at Fox as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, they're the ones promoting this show as well. They've got to do their fair bit, Alex. Do you not think?
I think that Fox is unhappy because they, I think, scored around 4 million with the debut episode on Fox. After that, they just plummeted to 2 million, or maybe below that too also it goes during the pandemic. And WWE is honestly trying so hard to please Fox because they have booked Hell in a Cell match during an episode of SmackDown. It was never happened in the history that they had a Hell in a Cell match in SmackDown. And because of that, USA Network got pissed off. Then they have to book another Hell in a Cell match for against this Bobby Lashley and Xavier Woods thing, because they want to please USA Network as well. The problem with WWE is the fans, they are just against WWE these days because of the massive talent cuts, the releasing of Bray Wyatt, Strowman, Malachi Black, and all this stuff. That's the main reason people are stopped watching WWE and they are switching to AEW or the other promotions, like many are there. That's the main reason behind. And even Fox tried to help get CM Punk to WWE, but WWE was very arrogant and adamant about that we will not sign Punk. So there are many things that Fox is getting unhappy with WWE. They are having $1 billion deal, $1 billion, not a normal deal. Yeah. So definitely they are unhappy, and I think it justifies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I'm going to say there is, I think like the other thing that annoys me is where you've quite rightly said there with the Hell in a Cell, and then it's USA like, I want Hell in a Cell, or you've put Brock Lesnar on Becky Lynch on SmackDown, we want Brock Lesnar and Becky Lynch, and it goes back to my saying, and it won't happen, but they should do it, and I think WWE are cutting the nose off to spite the face by not doing it. Is, if I was WWE, I'd say, I'm confident in my creative talent, in my creative team, what I've got. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a live draft, and you get your executives for USA, and you get your executives for Fox, both go into your war rooms, exactly like NFL, and you're going to announce your picks, and whatever you pick on each show, we are going to create something with them, because that's what we're good at. We don't need to place them strategically on there. You set the rosters yourselves, because then what happens is, if Fox go, well, we haven't got Brock Lesnar, well, you didn't pick him in the draft. Oh, well, the USA go, well, we haven't got Roman Reigns, well, you didn't pick him in the draft. You know, it makes it fair, and it makes it, you know, don't be right, it'd be must-see TV, 110%. But also, from a WWE perspective, it put onus on the company, wouldn't it, Dane?
Yeah, but wouldn't that cause, like, I agree with the idea, it's entertaining as fuck, but wouldn't it cause issues like, imagine they pick, SmackDown picks Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and WWE picks the two women's champion, and then you have the championships divided, and then one show doesn't pick enough women, the other show doesn't pick enough tag teams, and then you have this whole divide that you have to put kind of give a
Then
hard
you just
reset to
what
stuff.
you do is you use NXT as a buffer and get some of the talent out of NXT to stock up somewhere that you needed to, and create new stars there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
All we need
also,
is
if you do 1-for-1, you shouldn't really have no issue with it coming out unbalanced. And if somebody picks, say, for instance, they pick the two champions, the women's champions, for instance, or the men's champions, then you turn around and say Becky Lynch has forfeited the WWE Smackdown Women's World Championship due to drafting to Raw. So a simple way to do it, because then you just reset all storylines and start again.
Yeah.
And you say to creative teams on each show, this is what you've got, nothing to do with us, deal with it. And then they do the best they can. And then it'll eradicate any kind of whinging from the networks to say, well, we didn't get him or we didn't get him. Okay, well, the next draft's in next year. So you'll have a chance to get that person if you want to do it. But at the end of the day, you've picked it, not us. And, it just gives it... I say, I'd love to see it. But also, from an executive point of view at WWE, it puts the onus on the networks then to say, well, you're picking the talent. And then I know when they had... when Bruce Pritchard first come back, I know he was in charge of Raw, or he was the man that was in charge of Raw with the network. And Eric Bischoff was the network guy for Fox when they first launched. So I'd have that again, where I'd have a network guy who was a relationship with that particular brand and that particular network, and have them advise them on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting, as I say. But
This will be very helpful for WWE, because if this thing will happen, the ball is in WWE's court.
Mm-hmm.
They will get the advantage. If something goes wrong, they can blame to the network executives. You have chosen them. We didn't do anything. You have chosen them. Now you are not getting viewership. It is not our fault. So yes.
Exactly. Puts the ball back, doesn't it? Okay, so last thing that we're going to cover here is Seth Rollins. So on the latest episode of the Broken Skulls with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Seth Rollins stated after the match with the Fiend, he wanted to strangle Vince McMahon when he come back through the curtains. Now I can understand what it's like wanting to strangle someone, because I always want to strangle Zayn every time I see his face. What's your thoughts on that?
In the mirror, I want to hang myself.
What's your thoughts on that, Alex?
Saying strangling Vince McMahon is pretty huge in the podcast, because Vince how he is. He can get pissed off at anything.
But Seth Rollins, isn't he?
Yeah, Seth Rollins. And the reason he's saying it is definitely, he justified the reason, because it was the worst Hell in a Cell match ever.
It was. And the thing is, I think if there was more talent like Seth, who got pissed off and voiced the concerns and kind of went to McMahon and was like, look, I don't care if you're Vince McMahon or not. Don't put me in a match like that again.
If we have the more talents like Rollins, I think that we will see the Attitude Era one more time.
Yeah.
We don't have it. Only Owens, I think so. Kevin Owens is there. AJ Styles is there. Rollins is there, who are very vocal about their disappointment within the company.
Yeah. Because the thing is like, it's all right turning around and saying, okay, well, Vince, telling you to do something, you're going, okay, I'll do it. And then after it happens, coming back and saying to him, look, I told you this wouldn't work. Next time, can you actually listen to what I'm saying? Was that what you do, Zay?
I would, but in this case, it was an absolute big mess, because that's going to be looked back upon as one of the low points of both Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins' careers. And the crowd was chanting AEW that night, and they booed both of them out of the building. And it put so much of a strain on Seth Rollins' face run that he had to be turned heel, and he couldn't get his big moments afterwards. You have Seth Rollins turn heel right afterwards, but you have Bray Wyatt, and he never actually recovered from that, because you can blame it all on Goldberg as much as you want, but his downfall began from that Hell in a Cell match.
Yes.
That was such a mess, because you have such an amazing character in The Fiend, and you just ruin him, and then Seth Rollins also has to be part of that damage. And when he came back into the gorilla position, I can imagine his emotions. And him then saying that Paul Heyman talked to him, and then he went to Vince McMahon the next day, and he said that I want to make sure that this never happens again. And I feel like someone needs to say this to the boss's face, because that was such a big mess. The Hell in a Cell 2019 episode, the whole show was actually stained by the match because the show in itself wasn't that bad, but the ending was awful. And some might argue that it was even worse than the exploding barbed wire death match.
Yeah, and I think nowadays, obviously back in the early days when Vince took over, and even during the Attitude Era to a certain extent, you had wrestlers that were coming from all over different territories, different places, and they had all these crazy ideas and whatnot. So you needed Vince to kind of calm them all down. And also in the early days, Vince had a clear vision of what he wanted to do and how he wanted to go about it. I think in modern days now, a lot of these wrestlers are really well educated. They go to college before they become a wrestler, and the big fans of wrestling. They've probably got as much knowledge as Vince McMahon has, and they've probably got more knowledge based on the current product than what he has. So it's like, I feel like Vince nowadays needs to be really listening to these wrestlers and getting their advice and stuff instead of keeping with, because it does seem like WWE is stagnated and stayed in one place and they haven't evolved with the current thing. What's your thought on that, Alex?
Yes, you are right in this thing because Vince is very adamant about his product right now. He's not ready to change. Fans are vocal about it, wrestlers are vocal about it, but he's just stuck in that same phase. And I think from the past 5 to 6 years, this WWE is just stagnant. Yeah. Nothing new is happening. And even they are going backwards.
Seems like 95 again, doesn't it?
Yes. I feel the same way that when this was 95, 96 was there, it was a very cartoonish kind of WWE was going on during that time, the superhero kind of thing. And then this Attitude Era comes up. Why? Because WCW made NWO. And now the same thing is happening right now that AEW is creating. Now the new age NWO is the elite, I'll say. The elite is kind of NWO right now. And they are getting the ratings and everything is there and fans are also behind them. If WWE will not change, Vince will not change his mind, I don't think so. They will succeed and they will go down in front of AEW. Because now every wrestler is getting released from here and getting signed by AEW. Until now, AEW is using them pretty well, except Andrade. Andrade was the worst.
FTR as well.
FTR, at least they got one championship run also, so it's okay. Yeah. But Andrade is just directionless.
I think the critical part with AEW now is I don't feel like, the one thing I liked about Grand Slam is they didn't bring any new faces in because everybody was saying, who's going to appear, and they need to get out of that habit with people of tuning in to watch who's going to debut rather than
Do you know why that happened?
talent. Do
you know why that happened? Because the whole show, do you know who main evented the entire 4-hour show that happened in Arthur Ashe?
Zane, adults are talking here. Shut up, okay? If you haven't got nothing good to say, shut up. Right, okay, but
in all seriousness, it was very surprising that AEW didn't get the viewership also. Even fans were saying that they will beat Raw this week. It didn't happen.
I think the thing that they've got to realize now is when you make debuts and people know the debut is going to happen and whatnot, you're always going to get that spike in viewership, and then it will come down a little bit. Now what they need to do is the storylines need to be the hook for people, and I think they're starting to do that because give the due that the whole Grand Slam week was really good for them, and there was some good matches on there. The Omega Bryan match was the right call for me. I thought it was brilliant because it's a match that's not gonna. But the thing that's going to be interesting is, can they keep this viewership up with just their talent that they have? Because what they're going to do, just keep on debuting people every day and be known as the debut company. It can't happen. So they're going to have to start building the storylines. And for me personally, I think the main events in AEW do well, but it's the mid card they need to watch. They need to make sure they're making that mid card very strong and stop with the stupid fucking trio matches every week.
Because I feel that the TNT championship is booked as really there's no direction where Miro is going. The perfect person to dethrone Miro is Jungle Boy, and he's not even close with the feud.
To be honest with you, if I was gonna give the TNT title to anyone, I'd give it to MJF.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
You see,
he'd be an absolute arsehole of a champion, which would be awesome.
Jokes aside, actually, I want to see MJF win the World Championship. But actually, in all seriousness, I really felt like Eddie Kingston. I'm not even joking. Eddie Kingston was the right person to win the title because I don't understand because when Miro low-blowed Eddie Kingston, and on the next episode of Dynamite, they played off of it, and Miro and Eddie Kingston cut a promo on each other. At New York, in Eddie Kingston's hometown, he should have won the TNT Championship of Miro. I really hoped it happened, and that was the right decision that they didn't make.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't. Need someone that can actually carry.
I agree with Zen this time. Honestly, I agree with Zen this time because the storyline between Miro and Eddie Kingston should be continued. It shouldn't be ended abruptly like they put Sammy Guevara and Fuego del Sol out of nowhere.
Do you think Guevara's going to beat him?
Who?
Do you think Guevara's going to win the title?
No.
Sammy?
No.
Here's the thing, because of that curse where Miro put Miro stood tall on Rampage last week. I feel like that would be enough reason for me to believe that Sammy's going to win the title this Wednesday for some reason.
Could do. Well, don't worry about Eddie Kingston. He can win the new TBS Women's title.
Or the WWE Championship one day.
I wanted to ask you both one question: that what do you think that after this Omega Bryan face-off, how they will book the feud?
They keep them well away from each other. I think you have Brian coming back saying, I nearly beat you, and then I'd have Don Callis being an absolute arsehole and turning around and going, you haven't even got the record. We done you a favour. Go away and earn it, kid. And then it's just all about Brian getting these wins and trying to get back to the title. I've got 6 wins now. And it's like, not enough, go away. He's got to go and
I
get
really
some
like
more.
to see this thing ended in a 60-minute Iron Man match at Full Gear.
I actually have Omega reserved
Too
for
soon.
Hangman at Full Gear.
Yeah, too soon. I think Omega and Bryan Danielson all out next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you do, we've only just seen it. We don't need to see it again now. And Bryan Danielson has always been better as the underdog. Let him be the underdog. Let him have to scrape his way through. Let him have to try and get to the top again.
Yes.
And then just as he thinks he's getting there, Omega runs from him again. Do you know what I mean? And then you can have him go to
Just
the
the
top.
way they book Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega was also like out.
Yeah, I don't think Omega needs the belt for this feud to carry on, but even then, I'd still say, without the belt, I'd say, well, you might be number 1 contender, but I'm not the champion, so you're not fighting me. And just keep them apart for a bit longer. Then maybe have them, one of the pay-per-views early next year, possibly, without the title. 60-man Iron Man match. Or I'd have no time limit, but give them a lot of time to work. Do you know what I mean? Say, well, you can't go within a time limit, so we're going to let you go without a time limit and see how they get on. Or, as you say, an Iron Man match might be the way forward. And then I'd have Hangman Page as champion. Let him keep the title for a while, good while. Then I'd have Hangman drop the belt to MJF. And then MJF would be and then Bryan Danielson, fucking hell, I can't even say his name properly, eventually to win the belt off MJF, because I feel like MJF, being the arse that he is, could set up all these twists and turns and falls for Bryan before he finally overcomes the arsehole and wins the title.
I think that the perfect person to dethrone Omega is Adam Page only right now.
Yeah, it's got to be 100%. Yes. If it's anybody else, I think the fans turn because of it.
Yeah.
Yes,
they've waited so long for it. Yeah. And then, as I say, I think Hangman to MJF's good transition, because MJF's hot, one of the hottest heels going, and obviously you've got to have a heel to get it off Hangman. And then Hangman to MJF to either Daniel Bryan or possibly CM Punk, depending on which way you want to go with it.
MJF versus CM Punk will be a banger for the title.
Yeah, but I feel like CM Punk needs to turn heel soon. And as to who MJF will drop the title, MJF needs to drop the title to a very hot babyface. Now you have guys like Danielson, and you have other prospects like Sammy Guevara and Jungle Boy, but I don't think they're ready. Someone who gets cheered all the time and his name chanted.
We are all forgetting Adam Cole.
Yeah, and someone who also gets his name chanted in the arenas, and like everyone says Eddie.
See, Adam Cole would be good for the TNT title.
I think he will go for the world title. I think.
I don't think he'll win it though. I think he'll be a good fight for Hangman when Hangman comes back, and then maybe because he might turn on the Elite as well. Adam Cole, the kind of already told that story slightly. Ready for that.
Do you see Cole taking the title of Hangman? Maybe they delay for MJF. MJF gets a
Well,
TNT title in the meanwhile.
I'm one of these sad people that watch Being the Elite every week, and on last week's one, it was he kept asking, where's Adam? And they were like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. And then he was like, do you want a
Yeah.
drink? And they said, do you want a drink? And he gave him it, and he went, I'll save this for later, guys, because back in the day, they give him a drink and it kills him, which is when he first went to
Monster Energy
WWE.
drink.
Yeah. So I think they're already starting that story of Adam Cole leaving the Elite at some point.
I
But
think that
sorry.
the booking for Adam Cole will be like Adam Cole will beat Omega for the title, and because of jealousy, they will have a clash, and then Adam Cole will become a babyface and leave the Elite.
Yeah,
I think so. It will be like that. That he will be a babyface.
It could be. I don't think he'll win the title though. Don't see him winning the title just yet. I think it's got to be Adam Page. Adam Page is going to come back.
Adam Page is the perfect person, definitely.
Yeah, he's got, and also with the fact that he's been away for a while now, when he comes back, big pop, and he wins the title finally, and all this stuff, the story that they told, and it's going to be awesome. And then obviously after that, as I say, I think MJF's awesome. Don't get me wrong, I think Page has got a few kinds of matches in him, maybe hold the title for a good while. Then I think it needs a transition to MJF, and then I think after MJF, then that's where we'll see the change. But I think, right, guys, I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, today. Alex, cheers as always. The gaffer of WrestleBuddy, the invisible hands with the non-invisible face today. Obviously, everyone can find you at WrestleBuddy, can't they? And
WrestleBuddy's little shit.
Yeah, WrestleBuddy's little shit. I would say thanks for joining you, but I would say thanks for joining us, but somebody's got to be happy for you to be here, I suppose. So, yeah, you're here. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining us, Zane. Pleasure as always, mate. You know that.
It's lovely to be here. I'm sorry for my shitty internet.
Oh, it's all right. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If we had a really good in-depth discussion here, there's some really good points, and I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on what we were discussing. So please leave a comment. Also, tweet us all on Twitter. You'll see all our links there. All of us are with WrestleBuddies, obviously, so you'll be able to catch us all on there. Our articles and stuff where we do go into a lot more detail on certain bits that we've just been talking about. And check out all our wonderful interviews, top 5 videos, everything else that we've got on WrestleBuddies. And until next week, then we will see you next week. Take care, guys. Bye now.